Okay, so this is the step-by-step for value scales and shading techniques. For this particular video, we're going to focus on the pencil shading box. You can see that I've set my page up to have 4 rectangles, and they're labeled based on the different types of shading techniques we're going to do, and we'll go over those one at a time in separate videos. We're going to start with pencil shading. The first thing I'm going to do is separate my box into 5 different squares using 4 lines. And I'm going to do this really lightly with my pencil. 4, because I may need to erase as I go along. Alright, so when we're talking about value, we're talking about the difference between light and dark in a drawing, and it's used to make things look three-dimensional and more realistic. For our purposes, we're going to be doing a scale of 5. It makes it easier to break down and to learn the different types of tones and things like that. So what we're going to do now, and I'm going to do it in marker so that you can see it, but you don't have to, is I'm going to number my boxes. Remember, I made 5. We're going to start over here with 1 and go across, numbering to 5. Okay? Now as we do this, we need to remember that 1 is our lightest shade and 5 is our darkest shade. And that's going to be important when we start talking about boxes 2, 3, and 4. Okay? So for pencil shading, you want a very smooth and even gradient, which means no hard lines in between where you go from one shade to another. So we're always going to start, in each shading technique that we do, we're always going to start in box 3. And that is because it is the easiest one to start with and to build with. So for our pencil shading, I'm going to move my pencil up a little bit. You can see I'm using a mechanical pencil. You can use a regular pencil if you have one. If you have graphite pencils that come in different softnesses and hardnesses, you can certainly use those. But what I'm going to do is, it's kind of blurry, but you'll see, I'm going to make my lead a little bit longer because I'm going to be holding this pencil on its side while I'm doing this, so that I have more control over the pressure that I have when I'm pushing the lead onto the paper. And it gives me a better smooth application. Okay, so if you remember, we said that 5 is our darkest value, so all the way dark, black, as dark as you can get your pencil, and 1 is our lightest value. Now you'll see that there's 2 boxes on either side of 3. 3, like I said, is where we're starting on each one of these. And number 3 is our medium or mid-tone. Okay, so that is halfway between all the way light and all the way dark, which is a nice solid gray. Okay, so with my pencil on its side in box 3, I'm going to make a nice gray tone, thinking about what's halfway in between white and black. Okay. You see I want a nice smooth application, that's why I'm using the side of my lead. Alright, now, because box 3 is halfway between, and we know that as we go this way it gets darker, we can continue this same gray all the way across in box 4 and 5. Now, don't worry too much about whether your rectangles are perfect. They are merely containers. If you go outside the lines a little bit in this, it's not a big deal. So now we have a nice, even mid-tone gray. So now we need to think about what box number 2 and 1 would look like. And because we want 1 to have nothing in it, and we're going to build, I'm going to really do really quick is erase this line right here because I don't need it anymore. So if we're thinking about box number 2 and box number 3, box 3 is 50% coverage, which means that box number 2 is halfway between 0 and 50%. So box 2 should be a lighter gray, and it should be about half as dark as box 3. So about 25% as dark as box 3. Now when we get to where box 1 is, we just come across it just a little bit. And right now I have light pressure with my pencil. I don't want to push because I don't want to make this tone darker. Now, we also talked about how in pencil shading we want a smooth gradient, and so what we see right here is a line. We don't want this to be here, so we need to come back in with our pencil, and with light shading pressure we want to very gently blend this line out by adding a little more graphite right there where those two meet. Okay, you can see that as I do that, it starts to blend that line out, and it's a nice smooth transition all the way across. So now we're going to come back down here to 5, which is again our darkest value. So in box number 5 we're going to put some pressure. Now if your pencil lead breaks, it may happen, especially if you're using a mechanical pencil. You'll just click it and move on. Okay, I've added a layer here. You can see it's gotten darker. Okay, but I want this to be as dark as I can get it, so I'm going to go back over top and add another layer on top. Yeah, there goes my pencil lead. Like I say, you just click it, move on. And again, you want to get this as dark as your pencil will go. There it goes again. Oh. Okay, and so now I have a nice dark 5 value. So just like when we talked about 2 and 3, we're going to talk about 3 and 4. So 4 is twice as dark. Well, no, sorry, take that back. 4 is not as dark as 5, but darker than 3, and just like it's halfway in between the two. So we're talking about 75%, so we're going to put some pressure here and color this in until it looks like it's about halfway in between 3 and 5 in darkness. Right about there. Okay, and again, we have lines here and lines here that we don't want. We want this to be smooth and seamless. So we're just going to really quickly blend those in. Okay, just like that. And this is less pressure than what we were doing before, because we want to gradually build this up and get rid of these lines in between. Okay. So now, to tell if your gradient is nice and smooth, there's a little bit of a trick that you can do, and you can do this for each type to make sure that you have the right amount of graphite down and that you are in the stages that you need to be. So if you're looking at this gradient and you want to know if you have it nice and smooth, you will squint. You're going to close your eyes almost all the way, kind of like you're looking into a bright light. And it should very smoothly go from very, very dark to very white. Okay, so that is our pencil shading. And then next we're going to talk about hatching. So that'll be a separate video.